Call of Duty has broken Warzone. When Season 4 released, every single content creator and streamer, myself included, were really excited about the fact that Call of Duty had introduced 50 extra health into the game, extending what has been at the moment a very short time to kill. And as expected, on social media, Call of Duty got their hurrahs, they got their praise, and people were excited about Season 4. And then the lovely folks at synthic.gg actually data mined the weapon damage information for Season 4, and things have been exposed to be much worse. Because if you thought extending the time to kill in Warzone was an opportunity for the game to be a little bit more skillful and a little bit more interesting, you'd be dead wrong. Because they've done the exact opposite of that by changing the vast majority of the weapon damage values in Call of Duty. And if things have felt off to you since Season 4, or felt spongy, or just felt not right in certain gunfights, you're not going crazy. You're actually right. What they've done to Call of Duty and what they've done to Warzone specifically makes absolutely no sense. And I'm going to explain it in this video today, so let me know if you've had those feelings since Season 4 in the comment section below, and please drop a like as well. So what has Call of Duty done to break weapons, and why has this ruined the update for Season 4 in increasing the time to kill? Now, by adding 50 extra health to the game, the idea is that you would be able to move out of gunfights a little bit more often, survive a little bit more, and have more chances to reset engagements and try again. It's really great for increasing the long range time to kill so that you're not getting laser beamed across the map, and is generally a good thing for the game. But when Call of Duty made this change for Warzone, they decided to sneakily change the way the damage values work for pretty much all of the weapons in the game. As of right now, in Call of Duty Warzone, for the vast majority of the guns in the game, there is absolutely no point headshotting an opponent. And that sounds crazy, because by intuition, for pretty much every single first-person shooter you play, almost all of us try to aim for the head, the neck, or the upper torso to try and get the maximum damage from our weapons. But in Call of Duty, you may as well not bother. Take for example the TAC-56 assault rifle. You get 35 damage for landing a headshot, 34 for hitting the neck, and 34 for hitting the chest, meaning that you may as well not bother aiming for the head at all, considering that the chest is a much larger target. Same for the Kastov 7.62. The head is 35, the neck is 35, the chest, stomach are 35 as well. So there's no point of going for headshots with a Kastov 7.62. And even the arm and leg multipliers are 33 damage. Now over range, the neck, chest, and stomach area tend to drop off a little bit in damage, and you'll maintain 35 damage with a headshot over longer ranges of around 30 meters, 40 meters, so on and so forth. But still, the damage isn't exactly a huge shift. Landing a chest shot is 29 damage versus 35 at a range of 41 meters, which is long enough that getting a headshot's kind of lucky with an AR anyway. So for the most part, for most of the weapons in the game right now, especially in the assault rifle category, there is absolutely no point aiming for the head in any kind of medium to close range gunfight, because it's just simply not worth it. And they've done this across the majority of the weapon classes, assault rifles and LMGs. The Icarus 5.56, for example, has the same headshot damage as chest damage, and this only changes over certain ranges. So why have they done this? Because across the board, most of the weapons have the same damage for headshots or chest, and it only varies a little bit over range, but the gap between a chest shot and a headshot is extremely small, enough so that there's basically no benefit of doing so. And this change gets even weirder when you look at certain SMGs as well. Take for example the very popular MP5. Right now, with the MP5, you may as well not bother aiming for the head, because at extreme close ranges, it's 30 damage whether you hit the leg, the arm, the stomach, the chest, or the neck, or the head. It's exactly the same. When you get up to 10 meters, there is only a 5 damage drop-off between a headshot and a chest shot or a stomach shot, meaning that you may as well just aim for the chest and stomach as well. You basically may as well hip fire with these guns, because there's literally no point of aiming for the head, even in extreme close range scenarios. So let's get to the why. Now, hypothetically speaking, this damage change makes sense on certain weapons like SMGs, because with SMGs, with fast-firing weapons at close ranges, to some extent it actually does make sense to have this change to reduce the time to kill speed at which things occur. People who are hip-firing their guns at close range, or just happen to be aiming at an opponent at close range, often do land headshots, and that means that sometimes the TTK experience is extremely quick, even though it probably shouldn't have been, especially in hip-fire scenarios. So for SMGs, this change to some extent makes sense, but for everything else, It makes absolutely no sense at all. And by providing such slim margins between a headshot, a chest shot, and a stomach shot, you're basically punishing players who are aiming for the head and punishing people who are trying to skillfully outgun their opponents. Now, this can be interpreted two ways, and it's up for open interpretation. You could either interpret this as Raven Software and the guys behind this game trying to still artificially inflate the TTK beyond the changes they've made, or you can view it as they increased the time to kill but didn't want to increase the skill gap. And the only way to reduce the skill gap was to completely destroy the multipliers and modifiers for headshot damage, neck damage, so on and so forth. I'm leaning towards the second, because this seems to be a very deliberate change to the vast majority of the weapons in the game. And some guns have better headshot multipliers across the board instead of others. For example, the Lockman 556 has the largest headshot multiplier, even though every other gun in the same category has been nerfed into the floor. Here's a headshot damage of 33 compared to 29 to the chest, which increases quite exponentially over range, even as close as 30 meters. So guns like the Lockman 556 have randomly been preserved from this change for the most part. And the reason this problem gets worse and worse and worse the more you look at it is because not only are you being punished for headshots, not only are the multipliers for headshots not large enough, especially for neck shots as well, but when you throw in the extra 50 health, and you have to bear in mind that you do more damage to plates than you do damage to health in this game because they're separate values, you have an absolute mess of consistency that makes everybody feel spongy, everybody feel terrible, and makes your guns not feel rewarding. There's no point headshotting opponents. The damage to health and plates are entirely separate statistics. With these multipliers reduced, and the fact that you do more damage to armor, by the time you've plate broken an opponent, the general feeling of your weapon before the plate break and after the plate break are going to be entirely different, because there's a huge inconsistency between damage to health and damage to armor, and there's now more health matching the identical amount of armor, meaning that for a whole half of the bullets you fire onto an opponent, one half is going to feel completely different to the other half, just off of a basis. Let alone these multipliers, which now, by the looks of things, have been designed in such a way to basically punish people for aiming for the head and trying to increase a skill gap. Now, you can leave the questions or intentions as to who's done this, why they've done this, and if they're trying to meddle with the skill gap in Warzone entirely up to debate. But at a fundamental level, because of the way they have handled multipliers for the extremities, for chest shots, and for headshots in Warzone, there is basically no point trying to be a skillful player. There is basically no point aiming for headshots over most ranges that you actually run into people in gunfights, and for the most part, you're going to have to choose your weapons in Warzone based on the ones that actually do have headshot multipliers that are fairly decent. And you're going to have to use websites like True Game Data or Simthic to establish if those guns are worth your time. So if it's felt like to you that opponents have been spongy, or that the gunplay has felt unrewarding, or that things aren't working, you're entirely right. The way they've approached Season 4 is a complete mess, and introducing 50 health was not thought through entirely when they've changed all of these damage weapon values to try and make some sort of weird system. At the moment, the only way to play Warzone is to basically spam for the chest and hold hands with all of your teammates, because there are very few ways that you can actually outgun an opponent or even outmovement an opponent in Warzone 2. If you compare it to a game like X Defiant, where a headshot is worth nearly double what a body shot is worth, and if you hit somebody in the legs and arms, those values are much, much lower, Warzone is basically saying, don't bother. And this is a huge issue. Call of Duty needs to redesign the entire setup for damage values in Season 4.5 or Season 5. There needs to be real rewards for hitting a headshot, and there actually needs to be differences in extremities, body, multipliers, and just how things work. Right now, a stomach shot and a chest shot on some weapons are the same thing. Arm shots and leg shots on an SMG are identical to torso shots, and these things just don't make sense. Yes, these values change with range, but they don't change enough. They are still small enough margins that you basically may as well not bother. They need to introduce new values that reward headshots and upper torso shots, that punish stomach shots, leg shots, and extremity shots, generally speaking. Because at the moment, they don't. You may as well do whatever you want. You may as well hip fire the majority of your weapons. So that's about it for this video today, and if you've wondered why Season 4, despite making a positive change of increasing the health, has felt off, this is why. And if you enjoyed this content and this deep dive, they tend to take a lot of effort, so drop a like on the video and let me know how Season 4 has felt to you in the comment section below. As always folks, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.